Hello, Stormites of grade 12. I hope you are all happy, safe and sound. In this video, you are going to learn the first poetry from the book Flamingo, which is My Mother at 66 by Kamala Das. I would like to encourage you to make good use of this avenue to bridge the gap of learning during this unprecedented global crisis so that you are not behind your academics. Firstly, before we begin, I would like you to know that at the end of the lesson, you will be able to write about the poet and explain the poem. You will also be able to identify the poetic devices used in the poem. You will be able to give the meaning of difficult words, and you will be able to show appreciation towards your parents and the elderly. Now let's look into the poem. Kamala Das. Who is she? I'll give you an idea on the poet. Kamala Das was born in Malabar, Kerala, India in 1934 and she died in 2009 at the age of 75. She is a prolific writer and one of India's foremost poets. She has written both in Malayalam and in English. In English, she has used the pseudonym Kamala Das, and in her Malayalam works, she uses the pen name Madhavi Kuti. Her style of writing is very original, very versatile, and deals with complex human relationships. Kamala Das was greatly inspired by her mother, who herself was a writer, and most of her works deal with true inner human feelings and sentiments. Now, I am going to recite the poem to you. I would like you to go to the video content and follow the poem line by line along with me. The poem goes like this. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning, I saw my mother beside me, toes, open mouth, her face ashen like that of a corpse, and realized with pain that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away and looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport security check, standing a few yards away, I looked again at her, wan, pale as a late winter's moon, and felt that old familiar ache, my childhood's fear. But all I said was, see you soon, Anna. All I did was smile and smile and smile. So my dear students, you must have noticed that in this poem there are no stanzas or rhyming schemes. The style that the poet has used is free verse. It's a very long sentence. It's as if the poet has one thought after the other and she wants to put all her thoughts in one long sentence. So the poem is written in it's a one long sentence interspersed with commas and it ends in ellipses. Now, let me give you the explanation of the poem. The poet Kamala Das had visited her parents' home for a short time. Maybe she was there for a vacation or she had just come in to check on them. But it was time for her to return to where she came from. So she gets in a car and her mother decides to accompany her to the Cochin airport. So both the mother and the daughter, they get in a car and they are headed towards the Cochin airport. Now, it is quite uncertain whether Kamala Das is returning to her husband's place or maybe she is going to a city where she is now working or maybe to a place where she now lives. But it is, clear that Kamala Das, even though as a daughter, she would love to remain in her parents' home and take care of them, she cannot do so. She is obligated to go to where she is, headed to go. So both the mother and the daughter, as I said, are in a car and they are driving towards the Cochin airport. Now on the way, Kamala Das glances at her mom and sees that her mother had fallen asleep with her mouth open. She was dozing and she looked very, very pale, very old. Her face had ashened. Ashen, the meaning of the word ashen is very pale like ash. So the mother's face was ashen and she was looking very pale, very lifeless, and she was sleeping with her mouth open and she looked just like a corpse. So here the poet has used a poetic device that is simile. Now what is the simile? A simile is a comparison made between two similar things using the words like and as. So here the poet compares her mother's face, who is looking very pale, very lifeless, to a corpse. A corpse is also very pale, very lifeless because it is a corpse. So the poet has used simile here. So at that time the poet realizes that her mother has grown so old. The poet realizes with pain this fact that her mother is old, looking very pale, and she is approaching death, and she is, in the late years of her life. So the poet, she is filled with sadness when she realizes this. And, this sad thought leads to many other sad thoughts cropping up in her mind. Now the poet doesn't want to continue her journey to the airport with this sad thought. So in order to divert her mind, she looks out of the car's window, and what does she see? She sees trees sprinting. Now the word sprinting means running, and here in this context it means shooting out of the ground. So the trees are shooting out of the ground very quickly, and they seem to be disappearing within seconds. Tree sprinting also symbolizes, growth and vitality. Now the poet has brought tree sprinting, the image of tree sprinting, to bring a contrast to the mother's position, who is lifeless, who is pale, and there is no sign of growth, no sign of vitality. Now, again, tree sprinting also symbolizes the quick passage of time. Time has passed so fast, and the poet has realized that her mother has grown so old and is looking so pale and is nearing death. Now the next image that the poet sees is the images of young children who are very merry, who are very happy, who are very gay, running out of their homes with, making such a loud noise. Now young children, they are a symbol of energy, vitality, enthusiasm, spring, and life itself. So the poet brings the images of young children and tree sprinting to bring a contrast to her mother's position, who is very old, lifeless, very pale, with no vitality. Now the mother and the daughter, next, they reach the airport. And you know what an airport does? It goes through a lot of formalities, such as, board pass, taking of the board pass, baggage checking, security checking. After the poet goes through all that, she crosses the security check, and then she stands there, and before heading further into the terminal, she looks one last time. She takes a glance at her mother, and this time she notices that her mother is looking very wan. Now the meaning of the word wan means very pale, very dim, very faint. So the mother was looking very pale, very dim, and this time the poet compares her to a late winter's moon. Now in every poetry, winter's moon symbolizes, being withered away, decaying, and approaching death. So the poet's mother too was being withered away, and she was nearing death. Also, the winter's moon appears to be very hazy, very unclear, and appears very late in the night sky. So also the poet's mother is looking very hazy, very unclear, and she is in the late years of her life. So what happens is, there the poet uses another simile, and at that point the poet feels, an old familiar pain in her heart. Her childhood fear, that is the fear of losing her mother. Now the fear of losing her mother didn't just happen when they were in a car and headed to the airport. No, it was there in Kamala Das even as a young girl. Even as a young child, she was always afraid of being separated from her mother, of losing her mother. And at that point in the airport, after the security check, looking once again at her mom, looking very pale, very dim, she feels that childhood fear in her heart. but she doesn't want to part like that with her mother. So she tells her mother, "See you soon, Ama." Now it's very important to read between the lines here. Why? Because the poet Kamala Das, she is actually unsure whether she will meet her mother again or not. As the mother is in the late years of her lifespan, she is quite unclear whether in her next visit her mother will be alive or not. But she doesn't want, to show that grief or that pain to her mother. So to reassure herself, okay, and more so to reassure her mother, she tells her mother, "See you soon, Ama." The poet wants to part with a very positive attitude. So after saying, "See you soon, Ama," all she does is she smiles and smiles and smiles. So here, the smile that she has given is not a genuine smile. It is a pretentious smile because the poet is filled with so much of anguish, so much of fear, so much of grief with the thought of losing her mother. So the poet's smile is not a genuine smile, it is a pretentious smile. And the poetic device used there is repetition of words. So that is all on the poetry. Let me summarize it for you so that it becomes clearer to you. Okay, the poet's mother and the poet are in a car, and the poet they are headed towards the Cochin airport, from where Kamala Das, the poet, is going to take a flight to wherever she is going. Now Kamala Das wants to remain in her parents' home, take care of her mother who is old, but she cannot do so. She is obligated to go to where she is headed. So they are in a car and they are driving to the Cochin airport. On the way, Kamala Das glances at her mother, sees that her mother had fallen asleep with her mouth open, and she was looking very pale, very lifeless, just like a corpse. And then the poet is filled with sad thought and with this realization that her mother has grown old and is nearing death. But she doesn't want to continue her journey with that sad thought. So to divert her mind, she looks out of the car's window and she sees trees sprinting and merry children spilling out of their homes. The poet brings the images of the two in order to bring a contrast to the mother's lifeless position and to bring a contrast between youth, growth, and old age. After that, they reach the airport, and after the airport security check, once again, Kamala Das looks at her mother and sees that her mother is looking very wan, very pale, and this time she compares her mother to a late winter's moon. And after that, she once again feels the old childhood fear, the pain of losing her mother, the fear of being separated from her mother. She feels that, but she doesn't want to, part with her mother with that sad thought. So she tells her mother, "See you soon, Ama," and then she gives a pretentious smile because she is filled with so much grief, so much sorrow, with knowing the fact that her mother has grown old and is nearing death. So my dear students, I hope you have understood. For your home assignment, I would like you to try the 5 textual questions in your own words according to your own understanding. Jot them down. And if you have any queries, if you have any doubts, you can always contact me or take note of them, and we shall discuss it when we meet again. Now, that is all on the poem. Have a good day. Stay home, stay safe, and most importantly, stay happy. Thank you.